Hey, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, I have a couple of questions I want to ask you, if that's okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm doing a little bit of research for a concept that I've come up with for one of my classes. It's entrepreneurship. And this concept that I've come up with is based on the idea of a notification system or alert system for electric and water utility companies. So basically, what it would do would be to either text or email or phone call, however the individual decided they wanted to be contacted. Once they have reached the usage limit that the person has set in place. So essentially, the person can choose whatever limit they'd like to be contacted at. Um, so, say just random number, they only wanted to use 20,000 gallons of water that month, or they knew that once they reached that number, that's when their electric or their water bill, really started climbing. So they could set that number, and then the alert system could either let them know when they were approaching that number or when they had reached it or surpassed it. And it's kind of just the purpose of it is really to allow people to manage their usage a little bit more, and also prevent kind of disaster type situations where maybe there's a pipe burst or there's a major leak that you weren't aware about, and then 3 weeks later you get $1,000 water bill.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the basis. So I was curious on whether or not you might have a use for either of those services. So do you live in a home where you're responsible for water or electric utility services? Do you do you personally take care of those?
Personally, I don't see the bill for the water usage or electric because it's bundled up into what I pay for rent. So basically, the only price I'm seeing is my rent under the residential portal for my apartment complex's website. I don't really think it goes into details. I mean, I haven't been charged overages yet, so I don't it doesn't show me the separate bill for water.
Okay, that makes sense. That's definitely one less thing to worry about, especially as a student. Um, so you really don't have to manage your usage carefully then. And if there were an emergency, then you wouldn't be the one who would handle it. It would be your apartment complex and their management team.
Pretty much.
Okay. Okay, so that makes sense. So I guess this is probably not necessarily a need that you have.
It's not necessarily a need that I have, but if given the opportunity, I would try to see what it's like to use this service of yours. Just to, I mean, I like to take super long showers, and in the back of my at the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if they charge me overages? I don't know how much water I'm using. Um, so I would be interested in it, but thinking about it, really, it's not really necessary for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're not at the point yet where you're always maybe aware because you know that bill is coming of making sure you turn the lights out when you leave, and those shorter showers, kind of like you mentioned.
Mm.
So I guess at this point you don't necessarily need to identify those specifically, all of those usages. You're not having the emergent situations either.
Yeah, even though I don't directly deal with those types of bills, it's always in the back of my mind to turn off stuff when I'm leaving, or right now, I'll have one lamp on and just have a lot of things unplugged. I mean, even though I don't have to deal with it, I don't necessarily. At the same time, I'm still kind of conscious about it.
Oh, that's awesome. I know one thing that I really liked about the concept was the environmental aspect. That was part of my thought process. Is if people were aware of their usage, then that would be a little bit more motivation to try to preserve. their water and electric usage. And also maybe a teaching tool for children, even if parents are getting that alert on their phone and kids are not, you know what, that's a reminder that I need to turn the water off when I'm brushing my teeth, things like that. Because it definitely is, in my perspective, important to, preserve the environment as much as we can. So is that kind of one of your thought processes also?
Yeah, like especially what you said about like turning off the faucet when you're brushing your teeth. Like that's something that I always have to remind myself of because like you can forget so easily.
Exactly. Yeah. That was kind of one of the basis behind the idea is that especially when you get busy with life and you kind of get caught up with everything going on around you and you rush out the door and you might forget to turn off the lights or unplug whatever it was that you were using. Those kinds of things catch up with you and then they do reflect in your usage for the month.
Yeah, I think I would be a lot more conservative with like my water if I could see how much I was using though.
Yeah, that
Like,
makes
and I
sense.
think that could work with a lot of other people as well. If they can see what they're using and just like, especially if they use a lot, they can see just how absurdly large amount of like water they use.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Are the majority of your friends and maybe your family members kind of in the same position that you are in right now, where they're not directly responsible in visually seeing kind of the effects and numbers after their water and electric usage every month?
Most of the people around me, they're not directly dealing with it, but I have one friend. She lives near campus, but like her water bill is like separate from her rent, so she gets to see like every month like the kind of stuff that she's using, like the amount of energy and water she's using.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's kind of, I guess maybe that's a good visual. It has to be nice to have it all included though, so you don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, but it's like if you want to conserve more, I think it would be better if I could see it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like kind of good that I don't have to see it because I don't have to like worry about it too much. But I'm still conscious of it.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So, are you actually in Gainesville?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, awesome. What are you studying, if you don't mind my asking?
I am studying animal science, but I've been thinking about like switching over to like wildlife conservation and just like stuff like that.
Oh, wow, that sounds super interesting. What, do you have a career path in mind or you just enjoy the field?
I was really hoping to work with like the county back where I'm from, Orlando, to work with like wildlife and fisheries and stuff like that within the county.
Oh, okay, like their Department of Wildlife?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect. Do you have an interest in the water more or land type wildlife?
I'm more interested in really like land, but I would love to know and learn more about water conservation and just like the aquatic life and such like that.
Yeah, I know, especially in Florida, I think it seems like being a lot more educated is really an asset because of how careful we need to be, especially right now in the droughts in the last several years with our aquifers and our groundwater systems.
Yeah, and like it's so biodiversity is so important, and then the water supply is what keeps the animals there, and it impacts their survival. So it's super important.
Right. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, it's kind of funny. I guess talking about it, you realize like it's really just kind of a big circle.
Yeah.
The usage, our usage, affects everything.
Mhm.
So,
And a lot of people don't think about it that way. So I think it would be your idea is a really good one as far as making people more aware of how much they use.
right. Yeah, I definitely, just the awareness and educational perspective that it would bring, I think would definitely be one of the biggest benefits of it in my mind. But also, you know, with the budgeting issues, families deal with budgeting, especially having children, you know, and just busy lifestyle. So I think that overall, you know, it could be a really great thing for those that are in need of it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
No problem. Thank you.